Testing. Sounds all right.
It's very strange that I have a large nose, and I'll tell you why.
I guess you're privileged to have a big nose then, because you don't live in harsh conditions.
The habanero one? Holy fuck, dude. Woo! You know, maybe I've been treating this bike as some sort of parkour bike when really it's just a...
I once came face to face with a wild rhinoceros. That was pretty crazy.
I got stung by a bee once.
Welcome back to Burning Boat Business. Here we are.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
A little bit of extra lunch left on the table.
Very nice. Yeah. We've been apart for the past week.
Yes.
Now we're back together. So maybe this is actually, sometimes it's a little, not difficult, but a little strange to have some of the same discussions that we normally have on the podcast.
Yeah.
Because it's like we're having them again a little bit.
Yeah.
But this time we haven't actually talked for a week. Kind of.
Ish.
We did some stuff together on Monday, but
yeah.
Otherwise, I went skiing. How was it without me?
Better than I could have imagined. Yeah, it was good.
It wasn't too good though, was it? 'Cause
No,
I was a little worried that you'd be
I'm
like,
kidding.
why the fuck do we work in the same place? Why don't I just work by myself all
No.
the time? Get so much more done.
No.
It's so much better.
Definitely not more done. Definitely less was done than had I been here.
With me.
Amount-wise. Creatively, maybe some stuff was done that was good. Maybe I just needed to be on my own to figure some things out. But I don't think that has anything to do with you. But work-wise, I would say we definitely are way more productive.
When we're
on
in the same
your
place?
average workday. Yeah.
Yeah, I think overall.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it does make sense to not be together just because we don't distract each other at all. It's like when we know exactly what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're working on your film and I'm doing whatever, taxes or something.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that just makes more sense to sometimes
Yeah.
not be talking to each other the whole day.
I think for me, the thing is really I need to get out of my apartment
And
in
physically
order
go
to
somewhere
really,
different to start work.
Yeah. It's just too close. Too many things kind of overlap, you know. Suddenly leisure and work can become too very, I don't really know how to describe it even, but, you know, I like the fact that I come here, I work, and then I go home, and I don't have my computer. Whereas for the past 4 days at like midnight, I'm not kidding, I'll be like, maybe I should watch that cut one more time. And I'll like go down from my bed and spend 3 hours. Yeah, like just watching and doing stuff.
Oh, God.
And it's like, I think that's good at times because it's also when I'm motivated. It just happens to be at that time.
Yeah. It's a little bit more freedom, but that can also be bad.
It could be a bad thing over a long stretch of time, I think. You know, but how was your vacation?
Yeah, I mean, I used it as both a way to get into the mountains and do some stuff there,
Right.
but also to work on my script,
Exactly.
which was definitely
It's good news.
definitely useful. I think I spent 4 days just bulldozing through my own thoughts, trying to figure out what the kind of issue was. It's not an issue. There's nothing wrong with the script. It's just some things that weren't quite fitting into the overall picture.
Yeah.
Some stuff that needed solving.
Right.
And so it was a lot of like trial and error, a lot of writing stuff that I then didn't end up using. And then on the last day, literally on the flight back, it was like everything kind of like suddenly worked out.
Yeah.
It was quite a satisfying moment of everything literally just clicking in place. All of for each new thing that I'd write that I ended up scratching, at the very end, I drew something from having written that.
Right.
Like an element
Right.
or a character or
Right.
something.
It's like
boom, there it is.
when if the idea is a fruit, it's like at some point it's ripe. And then, because I had the same thing, I think most of Boris and Johan was written in one night. But that doesn't mean there wasn't 3 years of work to get to that night.
It's exactly that.
But it's a very strange thing where you're suddenly like, you end up writing most of your film in one session.
Yeah, because you're constantly working on it, even when you're not working on it.
Yeah.
It's like running in the background kind of, and your subconscious even is like working on things that. What I find very useful is to spend a whole day really forcing yourself to try and work on it, not necessarily getting anywhere, and then at a certain time saying, okay, that's it, and I'm not going to touch it tomorrow. And then that whole day, especially because I was skiing
Yeah.
and like climbing and stuff
Yeah.
like that, it's still kind of going on in the background. Sometimes I catch myself
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm thinking about that right now.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you've like solved it in your head, the thing that you couldn't write down on paper yesterday.
Yeah.
And then you go home and you write it, and it's like,
You ski home.
yeah,
Bye,
literally.
Mom, bye, Dad. Like,
Yeah, I'm gonna go back. See ya. But it's to say that you weren't working on it that second day. It's like it's not, or that you didn't get anything done the first day, because someone else might come and like, okay, show me what you wrote. And
Right.
There's nothing.
Right.
Other than a bunch of random handwritten notes. It's like, oh, but that's the process.
Yeah.
At least for me. So yeah, it's like 2 years of stuff suddenly now in like the past week kind of coming together.
That's
I
good.
feel like maybe like 3 weeks ago I started talking about working on the script as my challenge, working on it every single day for at least 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think by the end of this week I should be at a place where I've actually structured the entire thing.
Nice.
Have all of the scenes written but not written, as in like the scene where so and so, or the scene where this happens, and know what needs to happen in the scene. And then once I've gotten that for the whole film, then I'm going to start writing it. But I'm thinking at the end of the week I should be able to
start.
I have it now. There it is.
Yeah. Then the next thing I think will be, which is a terrifying thing, I think, is when you have scenes in your head that are so good, and it's just hard to translate them onto paper.
Right.
I've had that a bunch where it's like you start writing the same scene like 15 times. So you're like, oh, that makes so much sense in my head. I just can't get it onto the... Or like, oh, I want them to talk about this in this way, but then to actually write the dialogue is like, Jesus
exactly.
Christ.
And I have a lot of points like that, but I'm totally happy to have started working on the script, and then I don't want to call it get stuck, but like, okay, now I have to sit down and work on this very focused, and it might not go how I want it straight away, but that I was very clear, at least to it was very clear to myself that I wanted to definitely know exactly how it ends, exactly what happens kind of 30 pages in, exactly what happens 90 pages in, and what happens in between, and how we get from here to there, and why it fits together, and have all of that figured out, so that when I'm writing it, I know exactly where I'm going, and that I can write, they talk about this, and that's all I need to know for now.
Yeah.
And then figure out, well, how's the best way to actually talk about something like that.
Oh, that's exciting. I'm excited I haven't really heard about it.
I know.
In a while.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear.
But even the conversations that we had about it, it's all like, all of that was so useful. I know I said that last time, but it's like you think something makes sense, and then you start talking about it to someone else, and they're like, well, why that? And you're like, actually, I don't quite know. Or you have a reason, and you start thinking, maybe that's not a good enough reason.
Yeah. Or the worst was, I think, when I was making my film, you would ask me questions like that, like why, like a very specific why about something in the script.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, dude, I could have told you
when I was writing
6 months ago when I was writing it, but now it becomes very hard to keep 120 pages sort of... you have to trust the previous version of yourself and say, I remember making that decision. I didn't write notes as to why I decided to do that. I remember debating it in my head for a couple hours, and I must have had.
I guess that's why director's notes are sometimes part of like a big proposal.
Yeah.
You got like the script, and then you have the entire script again.
Right.
But with little notes saying why stuff happens.
Because there's so much to keep in mind, especially when if an actor is like, hey, what did I do just before this? Mm-hmm. I mean,
if it's not been scripted, as in it's not part of the direct story,
you have to have it in your head a little bit. Or you have to do the awkward thing of say, well, I don't know. Let me think about it. I'll get back to you. That's a good question.
Yeah.
But I think, you can quickly fall into wanting to have all the answers.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, wait, is that the what? What did I just say? You came from a bowling alley? I don't know.
Definitely don't need all the answers, but it's also like, I think personally I would struggle to like come up with the film as I went.
Yeah.
As in, okay, I know how it starts. I know kind of the main thing that the film is about. And as I write it, I'll figure out how it ends.
Right.
Because I need to go through the experience. I need to get to know the characters. I need to figure out what makes sense. And by the end, I should know what happens.
Yeah.
I feel like that might be a very jumbled way of getting to the end. And that I feel like I need to know how it ends that I can get there.
I see. Yeah, I don't know.
Kind of like some people
does it differently.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Definitely people do it differently. Some people would say that you should have the log line completely solid before you even start writing.
Yeah. Yeah, but what the fuck is the log line? I get that. But it's
I've worked so I don't want to say long on it, but it's actually I can see the point of it. Not to have a log line, but just to have gone through the process because it forces you to say what your film is about in a single sentence. Like, what are the main elements? Can I get it down on one page in one sentence? If I can't, is that because it's too much for a single film, or is it because I don't know what it's about? Right.
But what
both
about
are an issue, right?
What about the it will come? Like I always hated in class when teachers would be like, "Oh, let's watch this movie," and then say the log line. Look how simple it is. I'm like, yeah, in hindsight, I can take Boris and Johan and give you a great log line now.
Yeah.
That would have been very hard to do.
That's the point,
in the moment.
That's why I think it is a useful thing to try and get a log line.
Yeah, I'm sure it's useful to an extent.
It's like, okay, that is the main thing. That's what the film's about.
Yeah.
And it also, it makes it, like, just for, like, marketing purposes. Which is, like, a pretty boring thing to be thinking about now. But it's like, does that sound interesting to someone else?
Right.
Is that one sentence something that someone would be like, oh, like, tell me more about it?
Yeah.
Like, maybe that's something to consider as well now.
Yeah.
Which I'm finding interesting. But I'm assuming you didn't have a log line for Boris and Johan.
I would say I had an idea. I wasn't good at I had like a single idea.
Yeah.
Which is a log line.
Right.
I think I was just always bad when someone said, here's a piece of paper. Write it down. I would get too into my head of like, oh, it needs to be the perfect sentence.
Yeah.
But I could explain to you in one sentence what the film was about.
Because sometimes when we've talked to people and they've asked you what the film's about,
my God,
you've been like, oh, well, it's about so many things.
Well, like I think we've talked about it before, but I never know. Are they asking what is the film about on a larger, like, why did I make the film, or are they asking what are the plot points, like what happens? Which in Boris and Johan, to me, are two totally different things.
Yeah.
I mean, what happens and what is actually trying to be said are very, like, I think they complement each other, but from a distance, they look quite far away from each other.
Yeah,
so it's
true.
like, well, what are you asking for?
It is always interesting
and if I go down
to hear
both,
you answer it.
Yeah.
Because it's not what the film is, what's happening in the film.
No.
That's often not what you say.
No.
You'll look at the bigger picture.
Right.
And say that this is what the overall point that's trying to be communicated is.
What's it about?
Yeah.
Because you also sound so stupid. I mean, who made the joke that if someone was trying to, like, explain Star Wars, you would sound like a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Oh, right. So there's these Jedis, and there's this picture this whole fantasy setting, and there's lightsabers, and there's this dark empire, and it all mimics apocalypse. You would sound like such a crazy person, and nobody would understand what you. So it's like this interesting, like, how do you pitch a film? I think is something we'll probably have to get into at some point.
It's definitely interesting.
I think it becomes very, like, I don't know if you would necessarily want to say all the reasons you have. You might be trying to sell it in a certain way and put it in a certain light, and secretly you've got your own little points that you're trying to make as well,
Actually, this is great. This is what we're going to talk about. We haven't talked about Free Solo yet.
No.
Because I feel like we had kind of slightly different opinions about it. Something that's interesting.
Okay.
So we went and we were invited by some of the people we're working with to go watch Free Solo on, like, the second day it was screening in Copenhagen.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah.
After it's been out for, like, months in the States.
Yeah.
And I was very excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
How excited about it were you?
I was. What's that on 0 to 10?
Well, I had been checking if I could watch it maybe like 5 or 6 times before. Like, is it on iTunes? Can I illegally download it? Is there something I haven't seen yet about it? Like a interview or something?
Yeah.
I was very into it.
Yeah.
So it was like a big deal.
Yeah, I would say same.
And then we watch it. which also we haven't talked about. We got to screen one of our videos in a cinema packed with people.
As a commercial.
Yeah, so we made a commercial for this company that we're working with who were hosting the event.
And they played
the video that we made about them there.
Yeah. Which is a whole thing, because for those of you who don't know, when you can't just play something on a movie theater projector.
No.
The very specific patented format that you have to use.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of weird shit where it's like you need to buy a $600 player to even be able to check. It's basically the DCP digital cinema package format. So
adding to the nerd thing of this episode.
We've all it's stuff we've never done before. It's good for us to know, because we're gonna have to do the same with festivals and everything. And apparently, this is something that people deal with. But so that was an interesting.
We managed to do it without, or rather, you managed to do it without actually checking if it worked, and just kind of trusted that they knew what they were doing with it, and that they would tell us if it wasn't working.
But here we were being so specific. We said, go to the thing first and test it, and let us know
if it works.
Right. And I think they did test it. Did they say?
I think they said that the guy who works there,
he said it was fine.
It says it works.
Okay, we're like, great. So we get there, right? This whole movie theater's packed, and we were both pretty giddy. We're like, they're about to watch.
Yeah, I filmed it. Maybe we'll post that to Patreon.
That would be good. And it is so awkward because
everyone's still kind of like, some people are still walking in.
Yeah.
People are still chatting.
Yeah.
The guy just given a presentation, so people like, it just happens straight afterwards. It starts playing as he's walking away. So people weren't quite ready.
At our opening, right, the thing starts, which is totally normal in a movie theater.
Yeah, but if it's like a 2-hour movie.
Right.
But it's like a 25-second video. So by the time the curtains had opened, it was already halfway through.
Halfway done.
And the volume was turned all the way down. So you could barely hear the hours of work we had put into all the sound effects. And people are just, they're starting to realize, oh, there's something they need to pay attention to. By the end, everyone was ready to watch the video.
Yeah.
And then it ended.
Because it's a freaking commercial.
Well, it's a promo teaser.
They had also said, we want something that's, I think originally they had said they want something that's 15 seconds. And I think we gave them something that was 30 something. If it was 15 seconds, it would have been over by the time the curtains opened. Yeah. It would have been like, wait, what was that?
But it was definitely still exciting to have something we worked on in our little office here play in a massive, famous movie theater in Copenhagen. It was a bunch of people watching it, although I don't think they knew.
They didn't know, so that was good, because it was very cringy then. Because we also think that this video, it was one of those videos where it's like...
video.
If you don't have that, it's just like... Yeah, it doesn't. It's like, I would say more than half the video was the sound.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what made it good.
Yeah,
that's what people liked about it.
Yeah,
and then it was just
so quiet.
So quiet. You couldn't hear anything.
We'll put this on Patreon. It's funny. Check it out.
Yeah. Okay.
But the film.
So
Free Solo.
Yeah.
We're watching it, and I don't even know how to get into it, because I think we were both going into it ready to compare it to another documentary.
Yeah.
The Dawn Wall. Which we both loved.
Yeah.
And I think you were...
I was writing about it
skeptical that it was going to be better than The Dawn Wall. You were like, The Dawn Wall was really good. I don't think Free Solo is going to be as good.
Well, I was curious because I had talked to a friend, and that person had said... had some things with Free Solo. And I was like, oh yeah, I don't know, we'll see. But I definitely came into it skeptical.
Right.
You know, whereas the Dawn Wall, it was all the rage.
Yeah.
I was very into it.
Right. So what did you think of Free Solo?
I still came in open-minded. Like I said I really liked the movie, but the filmmakers themselves, I don't know who is in charge of ultimately last call, whether it's Jimmy Chin or his wife, or I don't know. There's certain decisions that I personally aren't my taste.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not a big fan of very hyper dramatic music, or like very dramatic sort of adding walkie-talkies in hindsight, trying to make things over the top, because I find it beautiful just as it is. I don't think you need to add anything. I don't think you need to have a super intense song to cap off the film to make everybody feel. It's like the images themselves already do that, and it's just a little bit too much cheese for me at the end of the day, you know?
Yeah.
that's how I feel about it. But I would still say if someone said, should I watch this movie? I'd say it's a great movie. Of course, go watch it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
You know?
I think the main thing that I felt afterwards when we were talking about it was that I had felt all of those things, but had it kind of like went in one side and just went out the other side, as in it didn't occupy very much of my... I wasn't upset by it in the same way that maybe it felt like you were like, oh, that's a little annoying that they did that. Like that kind of annoyed me for a while afterwards, and I couldn't stop thinking about the thing that, like, why did you do that? Whereas I like... I just like didn't really see it, I guess. I just saw the stuff that I liked.
Yeah.
And that I really, really liked it.
Yeah.
That I came out of it just like...
But they're two very, very different movies as well, ultimately, right? I think the Dawn Wall is like this person. The climbing is secondary, I would say, to who Tommy Caldwell is. I don't know how you say his last name. Caldwell. To me, in that movie, everything surrounding the climb is what's interesting. Whereas with Free Solo, I think we got glimpses into what's happening outside of the climb. But I think the main focus was really this climb and Alex's mentality, and
he doesn't start climbing until like an hour and a half into the film, and then the climb itself lasts like 15 to 20 minutes. I felt like it was about trying to get to know someone who doesn't want anyone to know him, and who is super shy, and who is not at all comfortable in front of the camera, and trying to get into his head. And even once you feel like you're in his head, it's kind of hard to understand him, because he is a little different, obviously.
Right.
And I felt like that was what was good about it. Specifically, that it felt like it was about him, and that they were actually trying.
I thought it got a little bit too, like, the whole amygdala thing and stuff. I just didn't read into it that much, of like, oh, he's got no emotions. You know, it's this thing of... that okay, maybe he's desensitized, or I don't know.
Yeah,
it just didn't hit as hard. You know, a lot of people were talking about that afterwards, like this. You know, and I just didn't quite.
Yeah,
I just didn't quite settle into.
I think he's hard to relate to, and that's what the thing is. Whereas with Tommy Caldwell, he feels like a lot more like you can understand him, and you feel him, what he's going through a lot more.
But it's also a full life. It's just different scopes.
It's a bigger deal.
I'm not saying that they didn't, but it's like this guy has had all these life experiences, and it's a documentary about him as a whole.
Yeah.
And they also added climbing the Dawn Wall.
Yeah.
Whereas this, I guess you're right. They did definitely go into the character, but it's a slice of life, sort of like
right here
these
now.
Couple of years.
Yeah, for sure.
Whereas it's not this whole scope.
See, the thing is, I think I like the Dawn Wall more too. So I think we totally agree on that. Like now that it's been a couple of weeks since I watched them, I think the Dawn Wall had a bigger impact on me while I was watching it, and also afterwards.
Yeah. What do you think between Dawn Wall, Maru, Free Solo, and let's just throw Valley Uprising in there too?
Oh my god! In like ranking them?
No, just best.
The best one?
Yeah, favorite.
Ugh, that's so hard, because Maru was like, in many ways, the film that I watched that really got me into mountaineering.
Yeah.
So like, it's almost like even if the other ones are better, it's like, because
I think Maru is...
I have that feeling attached to it that I can't ever forget.
Yeah.
Like watching it and being like, I want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I don't feel that when I see Free Solo. Like I don't want to do that.
Right.
So it's kind of hard. So definitely Maru.
I think Maru. Yeah. I think it's Maru and Dawn Wall, and then
Maru, Dawn Wall, Free Solo.
Valley Uprising. I tried to watch Valley Uprising again.
Valley
it was
Uprising
really good.
So good.
But it's not really a good like second watch.
Oh,
like,
I watched it again. I thought it was better the second time.
Oh, I was like, okay.
I think I was just in a really good mood.
Could be.
I
found it interesting. I also don't know how to compare it for the Oscars because of I haven't seen any of the other documentaries.
Yeah, me neither.
But I don't know. I was very happy to see them win. And then that speech was just a little bit strange.
I found that almost all of the speeches were strange, with the exception of a handful. It just seems like everyone genuinely either doesn't think that they're going to win, or they think that they can just wing it.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, one, maybe that's a bit like a, what's the word? Like
Generalization.
humbling. They don't expect to win, and then suddenly they win, and
Right.
they're like, I had no idea,
Right.
and it's kind of like awkward,
Right.
but it's also kind of like, they're they're just they're a normal person.
Yeah.
But then I was like, but these are like, they're going to the Oscars, and they don't know what to say, and
Yeah.
it was just embarrassing to me. I found it
be
very embarrassing. Like, have something to say. Like, come on, just say, like, know who to thank. If you can't remember it, have your little note.
Yeah.
Just say it. It's just so embarrassing to stand there and have nothing to say.
It's mucho cringe. That's for sure.
It makes you look bad, I thought.
But do you think that it's sometimes like when we record this podcast, I would say some days I feel on and some days I feel kind of like shaky and off a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like you could have it in your head so good, right?
Uh-huh.
This is what I'm going to think. This is what I'm going to say. Oh, this is going to be so fucking good. Then that walk, and I bet you everything just washes, and you're like, oh, fuck, what was I going to say? And then you get to the thing, and you're like,
I think, obviously that seems to be what is happening. Because
right.
everyone gets up there, and they're like,
yeah.
like, what the fuck?
I mean, you're looking. You got Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga. They're looking right at you, and you're like,
I guess that must be
intense.
Well, obviously.
But I think you're right. I think I would write something. So worst case scenario, I get there and I can't even say anything. I would just be like, I want to thank blah, blah, blah,
I think in hindsight, it's only annoying me. And while I was watching, I was just like, oh my God, like, just say something. Help the person out. Help them out.
Right. Or I also felt, because of that acceptance speech, I sympathized with it a little bit because everybody tore to fucking shreds on YouTube. Like, if you just look at the comments, everyone is just like,
I didn't even read the comments.
It's pretty bad. I think it's the thing where it's like you could get so I do feel for it because I feel like people are like, oh, she didn't even thank Alex.
But she did.
She didn't let Jimmy Chin talk.
Yeah.
She didn't, she kind of hogged the mic. And I said, yeah, but I don't think she's thinking that when she's up there. And I also don't think, I think when you're thinking about who to thank, you could get so bogged down and like, there's so many people involved in a film, that the most obvious, maybe, the subject of your film is a little bit forgotten. Elizabeth, okay. But it's not
she
like
didn't
she's
know what she was
boxing
saying.
people out. And Jimmy Chin is right there. He could have just said something.
Yeah, that's true.
But she didn't really pass on the baton very gracefully, I guess. Someone would have had to just like jump in.
There were other people, like there was whoever won costume design.
Yeah.
I think was from Black Panther.
Yeah.
And it was a guy and a girl who won.
Yeah.
And they both go up there, and she talks the whole time.
Yeah.
And the music starts going.
Yeah.
And everything, which means like, get off stage,
Yeah.
you're done. And then the guy at the very end tries to like, oh, and I just want to thank my crew.
Yeah.
And then his mic
gets
cut off. And then he's like, you can see it cuts to like a wide, and he's like, and then he just walks off stage. And I was like, why did you, that woman didn't even consider the fact that someone else had also won the award. It really bothered me.
Do they not notice?
The Oscar goes to Free Solo.
This is the first Oscar nomination for Elizabeth Chai Basarelli, Jimmy Chin, Evan Hayes, and Shannon Dill.
Thank you. Thank you.
He's looking at all the celebrities.
Thank you, National Geographic, for believing in us and for hiring women and people of color, because we only help make the films better. Thank you to all the amazing people who worked on this film. Evan, Shannon.
Our high angle team.
It was a work of an army, and we appreciate you in every way. Thank you to our families, especially our two kids. Marina, I know you're here.
James.
And James. Forgot our other kid. She's forgotten.
And then thank you to Sonny McCandless. You
At first I
climbed
thought
your
it
own
was
mountain
from
that
Into the
day, so
Wild. I
Thank
was
you,
like,
Sonny.
what?
Oh, right.
Yeah. That's a weird.
This film would be so boring without you, I'm just saying, okay? Okay, anyway, thank you, Alex Honnold, for giving us courage and teaching us how to believe in the impossible and inspiring us. This film is for everyone who believes in the impossible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then they're like,
Thank you.
You see them walk off stage and they're like talking to each other, like,
yeah,
oh God, we
she's
fucked
like,
that
"I'm
up.
so sorry."
Yeah. Okay, it's not as bad as I
No.
remember.
It's pretty bad though.
It's just a couple of things. I feel like maybe it's the whole attempt to list names in the first place
Yeah.
that I find annoying. Like, thank people. I don't know how to feel about it. I feel like I haven't thought about it enough. Maybe it is important to actually mention the people you want to thank, say their names,
It'd be massive.
give them a bit of
yeah.
a shout out.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's a shout out for other people to hear that name. And that if you really
No,
want
I
to
don't
thank
th-
people,
I don't
you
think
thank
so.
people afterwards.
No, because I think if you're at home
Yeah.
and I worked on your film
Yeah.
and you happen to mention me,
Yeah.
I mean, that would be like crazy. I think that's what it would, people would be like, oh, he
everyone-
remembers
Yeah,
my
yeah.
fucking 4 months of work on this thing.
But then it's also like you could never, for most of those films,
Yeah.
you could never thank everyone.
No, but I think you
Right.
could. I think a list you would. I also don't want to say anything because God forbid we win something and we give like the fucking worst speech you've ever
Call
heard.
us out.
But yeah, I would definitely come in with a note of like, these are the people I want to. There's no way I'm going to remember 20 people up there.
Yeah, no.
I don't think you list 20 names. You could say like, I want to thank obviously the main people.
Yeah.
Then you'd give a little shout out to the crew, to the I don't know.
I think it was more the fact that they seemed like they knew that they were messing up as it was happening. Like they were
Yeah.
forgetting stuff. They
Oh
didn't know
my
what to
God.
say.
Dude,
they were
I
just
can't
kind of
even
screaming.
sleep after
someone
a bad
owns
podcast.
if someone owns it, like, oh, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like, oh God,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
okay, let's just start. It's
Yeah.
like, all right, but they were like
Yeah.
cringing themselves almost.
Yeah. Oh. But then Olivia Colman, I watched that one as well.
Right.
Also feels very unprepared.
That's what I mean, though. She just goes with it.
But it's good.
She uses it.
It's amazing.
It's very good.
So I think there's a very tough because I guess it would also be boring if everyone's just like, I want to thank
For sure.
this,
the ones I
this,
like
this.
are the ones that are like
yeah,
Olivia Colman's.
right. But how hard? I have big problems. I think with public speaking. How are you with that?
I think I'd be okay at it.
Yeah, I get the thing where you get the
Shaky voice.
yeah, and it sounds like you're about to cry. We're like, oh my God, get this little boy off the stage. I think that's what.
I'd like to thank Boris. I mean, yo.
Oh, I loved Yorgos too when Olivia Colman wins and he just comes up
Yeah.
to her and like, it was
That was
such a
cool.
sweet moment.
Yeah. I noticed that as well.
Because it is just a big of a thing for him. I was
Yeah,
thinking, like,
I was
if
thinking that.
your
That's
actor
he
wins,
won that with her. I
Yeah,
felt like
well,
I
of
haven't even
course.
seen the film.
Yeah.
But as the director, you're working directly with the actors.
It's almost the best scenario. I mean, not the best, but like in terms of somebody you worked with won,
Yeah.
you're getting the recognition, but you get to show your appreciation
Yeah.
for what that person has done for you.
That's true.
By them winning, by them standing up there, and it's all very, I don't know, satisfying. Yeah, I didn't watch. Those are literally the only two I watched.
What would you say if you won something?
I don't know.
Would you just try and thank people?
Yeah, I would definitely. I have in my head. I have like the first people I would thank, and I think it's a list. It's a running list. So even if I win something, let's say on my 6th film,
Yeah.
I'm trying to very actively
Oh, right.
remember
People who worked with you.
where
on the
did it
first film.
start, right?
That's
And that would
interesting.
be not like thanks to my lighting guy, right? But people who've supported me in a bigger sense.
Right.
That would be like, well, maybe that wouldn't have been there for the 6th film, but it will all have
That's
led.
interesting.
Yeah, I think that's you try to keep a little list going of like. Also, the order I think is quite important. Obviously,
Yeah.
you don't want to piss people off.
Ugh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would be. And I also watched that interview where Alex was like, for me, this isn't really And I thought that was quite interesting to hear, which is so true. He's like, you know, if you make films, this is very exciting for you and you want to be recognized by your peers. But I got that recognition right after I climbed, and people texted me and my friends texted me and were like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the film tour would have been very hard for him.
Yeah.
'Cause it's like months and months and months of just touring around, giving the same interviews.
Yeah.
Getting asked the same questions.
Right.
You've already done it.
Yeah.
It's not anything that he's working towards. It's totally different for the filmmakers.
Totally. And I think that speech a little bit mimics the film in the sense that it's like the way she caps it off. And I want people to believe that this is a film about doing the impossible, and you can do the impossible. And it's like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I don't like those, you know, with the music playing and this over. It feels very surface level to me. And maybe that's me reading into something with my own insecurities.
I think you might be right, though.
But I think the film does that with the ending song and stuff like. It's like, I got it already.
No, but
you don't need to
I
give
think
me this weird.
That's the thing. It's like, I think that is maybe necessary for some viewers who might not have gotten it.
Who benefits from somebody saying, believe in the impossible? I mean, it's just such a like non-statement. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It just feels.
But I feel
you're
like
trying to be deep,
some people
but it's
might
very surface.
not be that deep,
that's how I
and
feel
that who
about it.
might like, oh yeah, like that's amazing.
Oh yeah, I did forget to believe in the impossible. Let me.
But there's a reason why so many people say that, and why like motivational speaking is a thing, or why like motivational videos on YouTube have millions and millions of views.
Right.
I used to watch them.
Right.
I
That
used
doesn't
to
mean
like
you should do it.
watch motivational videos and
Yeah.
feel like they really made a difference. Like I'd watch one and I'd feel dramatically different afterwards.
Yeah,
But it's
okay.
like none of it. I don't do that anymore. But I feel like that's because I actually understand on a deeper level like what that kind of stuff actually means or what it's about. That it's not just about saying it enough times and then it happens.
Right.
But it's like I feel like there was a point where that was exactly what I needed.
Fair enough.
So I can kind of put myself in that seat a little bit
Right.
and say, okay, well, we're making a film kind of for the masses. We're taking a very niche subject,
Yeah.
free solo climbing,
Yeah.
and we're marketing it to the whole world.
Yeah.
Okay, let's put a little bit of extra.
Cheese.
Yeah, but not with the intention of being cheesy, but
Yeah.
just let's drive the emotional through line more with these little extra walkie-talkie bits or these
Right,
extra dramatic
right,
moments or
right.
these over-the-top things where people can't look at the camera because it's too scary, or
Right.
they need the music at the end, and
Right.
just for that audience as well. So it definitely exists.
Yeah, but I can still not like it.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
I agree. I
Yeah.
don't like it either.
Um,
It's like I think
I
there's
think there are
definitely a
people for
way to do it, but it's not as easy.
right. But the same way, I think, you know, there's this whole idea of first principles. It's like you can go and, you know, you get nominated for the Oscars.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have the thing of like, well, what do I write? And I think there would be two types of people.
Yeah.
There'd be somebody who said, I'm just going to write what I think is the right thing to write
For the speech?
for the speech.
Yeah.
And then there's the type of person who would say, I'm going to watch a bunch of Oscar speeches. I'm going to read a little bit online about like, ooh, what's a good speech and like what will help you out with that.
Right.
And then I will write my speech.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying one's the better than the other. I'm personally more in the field of like, just do what you think is right, because it's
Yeah.
probably more interesting
Yeah.
that we don't have to hear again what everybody says. And I think that's a little bit what I see in that, where it's just like, it feels like you're just mimicking or you're trying to hit a sort of note that resonates with a lot of people. Like you said, there would be a lot of people that say, you know, believe in the impossible. That would mean a lot to them.
Yeah.
But it's also a very cliche thing to say.
Yeah.
And I would say it would take away from, you know, the thing. I wouldn't say the film is cliche.
No.
So I feel like in a way
Yeah,
you're
it's
taking
weird,
away
right?
from
Exactly.
the uniqueness of the film.
Yeah.
That is actually the interesting part.
But I think
But
only
you're
to a few
maybe-
people. And I think that not a
Right.
lot of people would actually be able to understand or agree with that fact that it is a good thing that he's doing there. It's like people would, maybe the film would be a lot more, it would be received as like a, what the fuck is this guy doing? Like, this doesn't make any sense. This is like, why are we
Yeah.
promoting this kind of way of thinking?
Right.
It's not an achievement. It should be Like,
But it's so much more interesting to me.
I agree.
Yeah.
But like,
Again.
it probably wouldn't do as well.
I don't know. I think that's a hard thing to say.
I think that's got to be why. I think they're aware enough that they wouldn't just be. I don't think they'd be unaware of the fact that like putting a lyric song at the end of that film is cheesy, but that it does something for certain kind of people. And that we're interested in showing this world to more people, getting more people interested in this world, and maybe hiding a little bit the kind of like craziness behind it.
Yeah.
And that it's maybe not as easy to understand as you'd like it to be, as people would like it to be. People don't want to leave feeling conflicted. They want to leave feeling empowered and inspired and like, this is amazing. I want to go rock climb too. Or I want to go tackle my issues. I want to become good at something.
Yeah.
But really the real story and the actual interesting thing and the like truth, if you want to call it that, is the conflict and the struggle and the there are really dark things about that, and that it's not all sunny and beautiful and inspiring.
Yeah.
But it is that as well.
But why end on that? Why not? I mean, I feel like the tone you take at the end of the film is basically your opinion on the thing. Mm-hmm. So if you say, "Oh, look at this amazing," and what you just showed in the film is that like it's not all butterflies and pancakes.
That's maybe where it then feels.
It just feels like forced a little bit.
To us, maybe like a little bit of that wasn't a deserved way of ending it.
Yeah, and I want to be very clear that is obviously this is film, so it's just personal opinion and personal taste, and there's so much stuff that
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's where I kind of landed. And I should be clear with the walkie-talkies, why that rings so true to me is because I spent some time working on Shark Week.
Yeah.
And they would do that all the time and create these false narratives with walkie-talkies. And it's just
stories.
very like ingrained in my head.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with it. It does, obviously it drives the story and makes things exciting.
Yeah.
But I would say Alex climbing is exciting enough. We don't need this like false
I
alternate
agree.
narrative,
I agree, but then at the same time, I do think that it just makes it easier to digest.
It definitely does.
And
it definitely does.
It's like you can kind of you can sit back and you can just enjoy it.
Yeah.
And you can experience it rather than think about it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the difference between maybe what we're saying we want more of.
Yeah.
And what they maybe decided to go with.
Yeah. Or I would maybe say there's other ways to deal with that issue.
Yeah.
But I'm also not the one in the editing room. I mean, for all I know, one of the cameras blew up and they lost a bunch of footage and they're like, oh, how do we fix this? Oh, a walkie-talkie.
Or those are actually walkie-talkie clips.
No way. I think some of them are.
Some of them are.
I don't think all of them are.
Some of them are. Like in when I made that promo thing for our website like a year and a half ago, I was struggling to convey that my brother kayaks down the wrong way.
Right.
It's like, it's not at all, there's no point where we on camera discuss the plan is to go down this part, to stay to the left, to avoid going down the river to the right, because that takes you down some rocky bits. And then you have to like walk all the way back up.
Yeah.
Camera's going to be in the middle. We need to hit that point.
Yeah.
And I like couldn't figure out how to do it. So I put in like fake walkie-talkies of a conversation that actually happened.
Yeah.
Saying, okay, we're coming down now. We're going to stick to the left.
Yeah.
And then I also said, don't go to the right.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a tool at that point.
Yeah. And it's not a bad tool at that. And I also want to be very clear that's like, look, I respect anybody that makes a film and pulls it through and, they fucking won an Oscar. It's whatever they did is amazing. And I think it's sometimes people might say, oh, well, don't be so critical of everything. And it's like, I can still love a film and still point out things that I'm like,
yeah, that's definitely
that's just me having a conversation with somebody, Otherwise, what are we going to both just jerk off about how good the film was?
It's true.
I
definitely.
There's very few films that I'd be like, I have nothing to say about this.
No.
And I think part of that would have to also be a factor that the film is old or something and it has a nostalgic quality to it. And I think anything that comes out, you should be able to say, oh, this little thing, that could have been cool if that was a little different. Or, I personally, that kind of, that didn't resonate well with me or that. Because I think a film also, it's a statistical thing. You're going to hit 70% of the audience is what you're trying to get. There's always going to be the 30% or whatever that's not going to be affected by what you're doing. And I will happen to land in that 30% every once in a while too. So I totally respect, you know.
Yeah,
Same with an Oscar speech.
we
It's like
definitely
we can
love
talk
that
about
film.
it as much as we want and be like, why didn't you do this? But it's
Yeah.
like, I mean, you made a fucking great movie and gave an all right speech. It's not like a massive deal.
I think the only reason why is because we feel like we care a little bit about them. Because we've seen some of their films and followed them a little bit
Yeah.
on social media.
Yeah.
And like,
Which,
on
if you think about
YouTube.
it that way, you know,
Just
I
'cause
would
you-
want,
just because you care.
I would love to be in a position where people were like,
Yeah.
felt passionate about enough about my film to even say something negative about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
To be like, oh, why did they? It means that that person obviously cares a little bit.
I just remember when we left the movie theater feeling like, because I asked you,
Yeah.
and you're like, that was really annoying. I was like, oh, I hope it
Didn't
didn't
quite sink in.
I hope it didn't affect you so much that you couldn't enjoy it while you were watching it. Whereas I feel like I've reached most of the same conclusions, and would agree with pretty much everything you said. But in hindsight, and in the moment, none of it is landing at all. Like I'm not even really thinking, and that happens most of the time when I'm watching films. It has to be really bad for me to be like, that's bad.
I think
I'm
for me,
annoyed.
it's like a tipping scale.
Right.
Like a couple things, fine.
Yeah.
There's a point at which I'll say,
Yeah.
now it's gone too far.
Yeah,
now it's too many things
I think
that
I
I
need
don't.
a lot of things on mine for me to start thinking like that.
Because then a lens comes in front of you too, and you start to see everything.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like I come into a movie theater, I'm giving you all my trust, and slowly I can lose that trust.
Whoops, sorry.
And that could affect the way I see the film. You know, if I think, oh, they're creating situations or whatever, I could start to think, I didn't think this, but I could start to think like, oh, Alex is kind of being set up to do a certain few things. Or like those thoughts would start to creep into my head.
I think it was stuff like when it cuts to like a close up all of a sudden of him grabbing a handhold while he's on the climb. You're like,
that I don't mind.
You can't have gotten that.
No, that I get. That was like putting a story together. I think
when it's at a crucial, I don't know if I feel like it breaks it for me because I'm aware that there should be no camera there.
I think that's it, and I think we're probably a tough audience. It's probably like
for sure we are.
The same way musicians might say they find it hard to listen to music. I don't know if people say that, but the same way sometimes it's hard to watch a film without having your glasses on that are like, oh, how did they light this shot and the cinematography? And you know, you're missing the story, obviously.
Yeah. That's why I found it so interesting to just over the past week watch the intro to like 6 of my favorite films. Or at least 6 films that I liked that I saw were on Netflix.
Yeah.
And analyze them in terms of breaking them down, like what they would look like on a script.
Yeah.
And realized that I hadn't been aware of that before. I hadn't actually been aware of the structure of a lot of films that I was watching. I hadn't been able to just watch it like a story and not analyze it for that.
Yeah.
I'll analyze it a lot in terms of like acting or cinematography or music and stuff like that, but not specifically to do with structure so much.
Okay.
The way it jumps around. Like it's very rare, I think, with the films that I like, that a film is entirely linear.
I see.
And that the narrative is like, here's the character, and now they go about their thing, and now the story starts.
Yeah.
It's more complex.
I heard once that like the beginning of the movie should feel like a short film, basically.
Yeah.
You know, like a 10-minute short, and then it just develops, and that short should be obviously about the main character.
It's like the first 10 pages are the thing that gets you excited about the film, makes you, it like grabs you, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, it's totally like a short film, and then even the first 30 pages are an extension of that short film, and that the first act in itself is like a beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the middle half is a beginning, middle, and end, and then the end is a beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah.
And then as a whole, it should feel like a beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah.
But that each part, it kind of has to...
It's very interesting.
There's a science to it.
Definitely.
And you start to realiise... Well, at first, you hear about, okay, these are like the rules of screenwriting. Like after this many pages, you should have this.
Yeah.
After here, this should happen. Or something needs to change now. And you're like, well, no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I'm going to break the rules
Yeah.
and make it different.
Yeah.
You want to make something different.
Yeah.
And you start to realize the reason why those are rules is because it works and because it does something with the way that we are engaging with the story. That it's not always the right thing to just change it for the sake of changing it.
No.
It's like, understand why it works.
I think you need to understand, yeah.
And then almost like work within those parameters, because obviously there are exceptions to how a story flows.
Right.
But it's like it didn't start from someone going, I want to not follow the rule.
No. And
I feel like that's the wrong way of going about it.
No. I wouldn't.
It's like follow the rule and then realize, actually,
Is there a
in this
better way?
specific
Yeah.
scenario, diverging and doing something different makes sense because of this. Like, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's different. Instead of like, I want to be different, I'm not going to write an interesting beginning.
Right.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
I want people to really think when they get into my movie first. And really, it's a slow beginning, like a long take where nothing happens.
Yeah.
It's just not interesting. No one cares about your story.
I think I've always thought it's weird because it would be like if you were making your 10th film and you were well respected.
Different.
Now suddenly you've got extra tools at your disposal.
People are willing to watch.
Yeah. Whereas now, we don't have the luxury of doing a 5-minute opening shot of something super cerebral because it's like people are going to turn it off after 2 seconds.
Yeah, that's true.
But I also find that with rules, you end up coming up when you disregard the rules and say fuck it, and you really work on something, like editing or something, you end up coming up with the same rules,
kind of,
that you were just like trying to throw away.
Yeah,
you're like, you know what? Actually, this makes the best sense. This makes and at the end of the day, I'll look at Walter Mutcher's book and be like, we've just come to the same shit.
Yeah,
you know,
that's why they work. It's not someone did not sit down and say this is how to do stuff.
Although I think sometimes maybe I think maybe what people are talking about when they say with script writing specifically is there is a very formulaic Hollywood
for sure.
cookie cutter film that you could literally, I need these kind of characters.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, this needs to happen. But that's maybe that's the end of the spectrum of like super rule based, like a formula, right? And then you go back and you find these rules, like you said, just the fact that you have 3 acts that you have beginning, middle,
you blur
and
it out. You blur that specific rule out that
Right.
says on page 10 you need to spin it into the middle of Act 1, and then by page 30 you need to now have plot point 1, which moves you into the confrontation of the story where the hero faces his obstacles, and then plot point 2 is when Act 3 starts happening, and that's when stuff starts getting resolved. And everything that's asked is getting answered. It's like if you blur all that out and make it really just kind of like vaguely there, it's like you can still fit most every film
into that
kind of something similar to that.
Yeah,
it's just moving some stuff around, or like it's not a hero, it's someone else, or you know what I mean. It's like it all kind of has that, even if you didn't want it or not, if it's good.
Right. And I think a lot of times, specifically what I would do in college is throw away all the rules and find that I've ended up with something extremely confusing. And then just say, oh, well, it's just too smart for people.
Right. Which is not, it's like, well, okay, if you're making films just for yourself.
But even that, it's just a justification. It's just trying to be like, sorry, guys, I can't work within these parameters. I'm too abstract of a person. And it's like, how about I get good at telling a story and then give myself the leeway of like, okay, now I'm going to fucking really go off the rails.
Yeah.
But I have the background of like, I still want you to be entertained at the end of the day.
Entertained and to understand it, to
And
care about the character, to want to know what happens next. I mean, you need basic things to be happening in order for someone to watch it.
Yeah. And people can disagree.
Yeah.
And I said, that's fine. But I also don't want to watch. I shouldn't be making a 8-hour film that never cuts if that's not what I want to watch, just because I think it's cool. You know what I mean?
Because it's different.
That's just for me personally.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, Andy Warhol did a film called, I think, Empire or Empire State Building or something like that. Literally like uncut, 8 hours, shot at a building. And that's the thing where it's like, well, it makes sense because he's Andy Warhol. If I did that, no matter how much you want to read into it, it's not going to be the same.
Yeah.
It's just not. And I wouldn't want to watch it, so why would I make it? to get an image of being a rule breaker or a, you know, I mean, ultimately, don't we all just want to tell good stories
Yeah, you want people to understand
and relate to
what you are trying to convey.
Yeah.
And if you reach a point where you're getting feedback, people saying that it's too confusing or I didn't feel that,
Right.
I think it'd be wrong and just silly to say, well, that's just because you didn't get it. Or,
Right.
I mean, it depends on who it is, of course.
It gives you, well, you,
But
I think
it's
you
like,
work your way up
you
to
gotta
that.
do the work.
That, it's a privilege to be able to, you know, Stanley Kubrick, 2001. It's like he's at that point where people are willing to read into his work so much that he can do something like that.
And
it would be hard for me to expect people to look into something. They don't fucking know who I am. They don't, you know. I'm also not that practiced at having done it. I mean, I've done one.
But even something as different as 2001: A Space Odyssey, it still follows basic rules. Of like, you could point to specific scenes where now you feel like you're in a different part of the film. This is when it transitions from Act 1 to Act 2.
For sure.
Where now you're focused on this story.
For sure.
And then here it very clearly transitions. Or maybe it's not very clearly, and that's the thing that's different. But it's like, now we're in Act 3. Now it's where stuff is starting to just go crazy.
Right.
And we're not sure what's happening.
But it is a resolution.
Yeah, exactly.
Ultimately.
It still is a resolution.
Right.
You still, in some way or another, care about the characters.
Right.
Because of the setup that was built up in Act 1.
Right.
Or you care about the meaning of the film because of the setup
Exactly.
in Act 1.
Or someone can break that, like Jodorowsky in Holy Mountain, where at the end you've been so invested with this whole story, and he's like, it's just a film.
Yeah.
Ha.
Got you.
You know, like, oh, and it leaves you like, oh my fucking God. It gives you this reaction, and that's something that's extremely interesting, but it's like a talented thing to, it's not like, oh, he just got lucky and it, you know, turned out. It's like, it's a very precise thing that he's playing with, your expectation at the end.
Yeah.
And then he flips it on you, and you are like, oh shit. Yeah.
Or to expect that people just care about your characters.
Yeah, that's a tough one as well.
It's like, oh, that's hard to do.
Oh, I'm going to start with my character. Something terrible happened. And it's like, I don't fucking care about this guy.
Yeah, you don't
Who
care
is
about
this
them
guy?
yet. But I do.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah, but no one knows who that is.
Yeah.
They don't have any,
Yeah.
they have nothing invested on this character.
Right.
That's also, it's actually very fun to watch. Like, we're watching Jurassic Park right now.
Mm-hmm.
Or watching, like, The Bourne Identity.
Mm-hmm.
Or what was the other one I was watching? Like Indiana Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Like classic films
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, are wildly considered to be, you know, good films or
Mm-hmm.
like commercially successful.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, they're simple in a lot of ways, but it's also like they've gotten the basics right.
Yeah.
And then it's the other stuff is what's really good if you look into it.
Yeah.
I was thinking about, like, in Jurassic Park, like the guy who gets eaten on the toilet, the like annoying lawyer, and the way that he's been built up to be someone who's unlikable, and then you don't care about it when he dies. It's almost like a funny moment that he gets eaten by the T-Rex. But then to analyze it and be able to understand, like, well, that's on purpose. And they've characterized him like that so that you see what happens, what can happen. You don't want that to happen to the characters you actually care about.
Right.
And then you're starting to think about, well, why do I care about this character? He's also not obviously likable. You start analyzing, and it's because, okay, they've firmly established his moral compass, for example, whereas the lawyer doesn't have one. He flips on what he says in the beginning of the film and totally disregards himself later on because of something more shiny. Whereas the character who you do care about, he's very firm about what he believes in. He might come across as an asshole, but that's something you can, like, generally respect.
Yeah.
So you care about him more.
Yeah.
It's super basic stuff, but it's like, it's very interesting, I think. It's very interesting to look at and analyze, and, like, how can you use that? And when does it make sense to not use it? And you need to have that knowledge, whether or not you know that is what is happening. You can tell, I think, in a film, if someone has an understanding of, why do we care about characters? Why is this important? Why is this not important for good reason? And stuff like that.
Yeah. It's all super. And I think all of these rules,
Super.
it's all of these rules are like you said, quite. Like, I wonder if whoever made Jurassic Park, who was it, Spielberg?
Yeah.
If he sits down at the end of the day and says, "Yep, that's exactly what I plan on making," or if even to him there is a magic to it, a sort of like, yeah, you have these rules for the script, you have these rules for making the film, you have these, but at the end, it is this sort of something, outside of yourself that brings everything together, and suddenly you've got a film with characters that people care about, with characters that seem to have a life outside of you, outside of the film. People are relating to them outside of the whatever. It's like a magical sort of thing that comes together.
I think it's like the final ingredient.
Yeah, and there's so much.
All you can do is maximize the potential that something like that is going to happen. That things, all the different elements come together.
Right.
Or at least come enough together that the mistakes that are in every film, the things that aren't good, they don't have such a big effect.
Right.
Or such a negative impact on the overall thing.
Yeah, and I think following classical story structures is a way of maximizing your potential, for example. And that everything you're doing is trying to have a balance of like, well, I can be weird here, but then also let me, I feel like it's this whole shuffle game almost of
it's like
how much are you willing to risk?
But I think for me, the thing that kind of clicked a little bit was that classical story structures are classical because they're built on how we work and function as humans and how we understand things and how we relate to other people.
Yeah.
And that it's there because that's what makes sense to us.
Yeah.
Like you can't have a character who does a bunch of things you don't agree with and then expect the audience to like that person.
Right.
Well, I'm going to do it differently because I want you to like a bad person.
Right.
You just can't do that because you're not going to like them.
Right.
So you have to show them doing something that you do agree with or something that you can respect, or you show them at least in some way doing something that's good, even though everything else they're doing is maybe bad.
Right.
But that through that one lens, you can view them as someone you're on their side.
You relate to them more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like to just say that you want to shock people and make them like someone who's unlikable.
Yeah.
By making them just plain unlikable.
Yeah.
Is not possible.
No, or just not good.
Not good. I mean, not good because it doesn't work.
Good about Lolita is that you are identifying with a pedophile.
Yeah.
And you relate to him.
Or Walter White from Breaking Bad, a drug lord who does everything wrong in terms of lying to his family and making drugs.
Yeah. But I'm very curious about these like very classic, great films of just, I would love to know how much was intent originally and how much kind of through the process just gets, I mean, obviously they're amazing at what they do. I mean, I think that's the question.
I think it's hard to say that someone would make Jurassic Park and say, I know for sure that's going to be a massive success.
No. I just think I think he watches it now.
We want this moment in the middle of Act 2 to have serious emotional meaning because you care about that character.
Right.
We're definitely going to create that actually here in the beginning.
Yeah.
When he's
yeah.
saving the kids or whatever.
Yeah.
Even though he doesn't like kids. So you're like, okay, he doesn't like kids, but he's still saving them.
Yeah.
He's a good guy. He knows what's right and what's wrong.
Right.
Even though he doesn't feel like he connects with children, he still saves them. Whereas the guy who's nice to them earlier on, when they're in danger, he runs. And it's like, it's so simple.
Yeah.
But it's like, immediately you identify with that person. Or at least you like them in some way.
That's yeah.
Let's end it there.
Sure.
We'll see you next time on Bernie Boat Business.